There's just so much.
You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on. Welcome to Mamamia Out Loud. It's what women are actually talking about on Friday, the 26th of April. I'm Holly Wainwright.
I'm Leah Freedman.
And I'm Jessie Stevens.
And on the show today, what is microfeminism and why is it so wickedly delicious? Also, our records of the week include the royal TV show you need to watch tonight and zombie children, holidaying with your in-laws and an emotional return, our bests and worsts of the week. But first, Jessie Stevens.
In case you missed it, it's true. Everyone you've ever met is currently running a marathon. Right this
Why
minute.
is that?
Marathon season.
There's an article in The Atlantic this week, and the headline is The New Quarter-Life Crisis, and it's about how running a marathon has become a milestone for young adults.
That's so funny. I was talking because I know older people who are doing marathons, like people in their 40s, but also people in their early 20s.
So it's always been a midlife crisis cliche.
Yeah.
Sort of similar to like your Lycra
Mammals.
and your long...
I did it 10 years ago, half marathon.
You did too.
And the thing that's amazing to me about that, I did 2 half marathons 10 years ago. My second baby was 1. It's definitely midlife crisis related. But what is funny is that 10 years on, it's like a different person did that because I don't run anymore, right? I cannot even put myself in that
Why
person's
did you do
head.
it? Sorry, why?
What did it give you?
I was I wanted to prove I could do something I'd never done before. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to do something that wasn't about work or
Do you enjoy
kids.
running?
No, I had never run in my life.
That sounds like about reclaiming your identity after kids.
Yeah, and
right?
I loved it, particularly the first time because I did it with a group, like a charity group, and I went from literally they take you out on the first day you run a kilometre. And by the end of 4 months, you can run 18, 20 kilometres. It is incredible. And I loved it. But like I say, now when I think about it, it feels like somebody else. I can't even connect to that person.
That is one thing I do not need to do in my
Do you know what
lifetime.
it also is? Time on your own.
Yeah.
Well,
No one can ask you to do things
Is
while
it
you're
time on
training
your
for a
own?
marathon.
because this is the thing, right? If you looked at the stats, you used to look at the stats and it was mostly sort of midlife people. But now there's been a bunch of marathons in the US and the percentage of those people in their 20s has skyrocketed. And so they're trying to work out what is going on. And Maggie Mertens, who's the author of this article, writes, when other big life milestones seem elusive, a marathon, though extreme, can feel like a surer route to finding meaning. If you stick to your training plan, this is a goal you can reach. So for young people who are stuck in what I've heard referred to as sort of the waiting room of adulthood or this pretend adulthood where they're not reaching these socially prescribed milestones. So say, marriage, kids, stable career, home ownership,
Moving out of home.
all of that,
Yeah.
a marathon seems more doable. And Mertens says that the people she interviewed for the article who were running marathons all chose to do so because of some sort of discontent. They were unhappy with something. But a lot of people did it for the community. So run clubs are like one of the ways that young people can spend time together.
I made a lot of really good friends doing
Yeah,
that.
right.
So where are they now? Did they keep running and you stopped?
Yes, and they kept running, left me behind in the dust. But because the group I was in, you weren't allowed to have headphones in, you weren't allowed to listen to music. These are long runs, hours of your life, and we
were there rules
talked
like
about
that?
everything.
How can you talk and run?
We weren't running at pace. Like when you're marathon running and you're a half marathon running and you're a novice, you're not running fast.
Yeah, right. Well,
I think I'd still be panting though.
I also wonder if it is a post-COVID response to freedom, that we felt locked up, and especially at a very sensitive time for people who are, say, in their 20s. So it might have, been those years where they're really meant to be out partying or traveling or gap years. And now it's like the doors have been open and you just have this pent up, I need to run a marathon.
We have a producer right here, producer Tahli. Why are you running a marathon, my friend? How old are you, first of all?
21.
And are you having a quarter-life crisis? It's a bit early.
I'm not having a quarter-life crisis. I have a few friends that have started running with me, and it's kind of this thing that we've all just started to do together, and it's a way we can catch up as friends. And we just thought, why not do a half marathon together? Why not push each other and see who's going to win in our friendship group and who's going to come last? Maybe me.
Gamifying, socializing.
Yes, exactly.
Love that.
So good.
I'd always wanted to be one of those people. You know how there are
Better than
things
just going out drinking and doing drugs,
exactly.
really.
Well, is it though? But I'd always wanted to be one of those people. You know how you have visions of yourself?
Yeah.
I still do. I always wanted to be one of those people who goes, I'm just going for a run and like leaves the house.
Yeah.
And for like this brief period of my life, I was that person. Now I'm not that person again.
There's a new feminism trend that's gone viral on TikTok. And before we get to it, I thought we'd just talk about some rules of engagement, what feminism actually is, because I know a lot of people are sometimes confused. Sometimes the word is used as a weapon. Sometimes it's used to criticize people for doing something that you don't like or not doing something that you do like. Feminism, however, is about believing that men and women should have equal financial,
Economic, political, and
Can
legal.
we all just notice that Mia can't define feminism?
Look, you know what? This actually really works. Let's not edit this.
No, let's keep
not
this
edit
in.
it.
I
It's
looked around the
Sorry,
room.
just to be clear,
I used
did you
to know
say
what it
that
was.
women have financial and then you forgot? This is so perfect. Financial, economic, legal,
And between
social,
patches.
all
Equality.
of those things.
Women should have the same rights as men, really.
Yeah.
Same right to wear jeans, rights of bodily autonomy. Jeans is important.
Jeans are really important.
But-
No, but I mean pants. Like, because once upon a
Yeah.
time, women couldn't wear jeans. They had to ride side saddle.
Yeah.
They couldn't wear jeans.
Let's make Mia stop talking.
They
about
couldn't vote.
feminism.
So that is the very simple
Can we
definition
play
of
the Oscars roundup music for me talking about feminism?
I'm glad I just made that clear to everybody in case it wasn't clear before. Now, where was I? The new trend that's gone viral on TikTok is called microfeminism. And hopefully that means it has a shorter definition than the one I just gave. Essentially, what microfeminism is the way that women and people are engaging in small acts of feminism in their everyday life. Because, of course, you don't have to be a woman to be a feminist. You can be a man, or a child.
Please stop talking.
You can be non-binary. You can be my dog. You can be anyone, as long as you believe in the stuff that I said before, which I won't repeat because I've already forgotten it. There's a TikToker called Katie Wood. She's gone viral when sharing her acts of microfeminism. Here she is.
Here's a list of things I do that are microfeminisms. I feel like probably a lot of you don't know that I'm an attorney during the day, so that's my 9 to 5. And I have a lot of little tiny things that I do that are microfeminism like acts. If you don't know what that is, long story short, it's like instead of just like standing up, burning your bra and screaming at people, it's like little acts that make men pissed off, and it's my favorite fucking thing to do.
Can I interrupt her just for a second, Katie? I think that's very reductive. Before we get to the point of, I didn't like your attitude when you said instead of getting up and burning your bra and shouting at people, I think that is a very reductive and unfair portrayal of what feminism is.
I think she was being hyperbolic. I think she was saying that rather than go out and protest, which is also a very valid part of feminism,
So
you can
suffragettes
also
had to do things.
just be a bitch. And that is what we support.
Okay. Back to Katie.
Top of the list is if somebody says I have to talk to the board, or I have to talk to the chairperson of the board, or I have to talk to the CEO or CFO or whoever, I will say, let me know what she says. Always she. Like, my default is she or her instead of he or him. Obviously, unless I know the person and I know that it's a man, I don't go out of my way to be wrong. This is an easy and obvious one, but saying MS instead of MISS or MRS, because MS period just, it doesn't mean you're married or unmarried. It means that you just like don't know or don't care.
Is this how basic our feminism is?
101.
Katie, try harder. That was pathetic.
It gets better. Come on, Katie, bring it home.
I know some people will say Miss and Mr. and then like their names, but I don't go that far out of my way. But I will if I'm saying first names, like if I'm saying Jane and John, I'll say Jane first instead of saying John first. If I'm on an email with a bunch of people who do not outrank each other, obviously this is like if there's not a secretary, not a assistant, anything like that, and someone has to send like a calendar invite or a Zoom invite or something like that, I will ask the men in the group to send it, or like a specific man in the group, like, hey John, do you mind sending that? If a woman says something in an email, like they do some research and they have an opinion on something and I think it's right, but I think more needs to get added, I will say, I think Jessica's 100% right. This is correct. I just want to add something like that. Like I'll affirm and then continue. But like if a man says it, I'll just say, I want to add, and I'll just go into whatever I'm going to add.
Interesting. Okay.
I feel 100 years old.
I came around at the end.
At the beginning, like you, Mia, I was like, oh, we're explaining feminism because people have forgotten what it is.
Frankly, I thought my explanation was stronger, more memorable.
But when we get to the examples, I get it, right?
Yeah.
So one that used to be the cliche that we'd assume that a doctor was a man. So you might be like, and what did the doctor say? You know, like, and you would use a male pronoun. And now we kind of are outgrowing that. And she's saying do that all the time.
Yes.
Right?
Recently, I was interviewing my friend Julia Baird about her book, Grace, and she was talking about something about she'd had this amazing doctor who'd operated on her. And I went, oh, that's amazing. How did he do that? And she went, she. And I was like, because I just want to defend myself a little bit from the fact that I do often still defer to that pronoun because I didn't know any female doctors growing up, and all the pictures of doctors in books were just men in white coats, and doctors on the TV were men.
And that's why microfeminism is a bit of fun. There was one person who said, I introduce a couple by saying, this is Sally, she's a blah. This is Sally, she's a podcaster. And this is her husband partner. And then I just don't say what he does, just his relationship to Sally.
Yeah.
And then there was one that said, I'm a NICU nurse. And whenever it's time to change the nappy, I tell the father, not the mother. And I also ask the father while he's at it if he can clean the bottle and all the pump parts that have been used.
The ones about family life and parenting I love because obviously domestic equality, one of my micro obsessions. In response to this stuff, one of the teachers said, and I know teachers who do this, and I'm so glad they do, that whenever a kid is sick, she'll call on the contact form, she'll call the dad first. And she said that very often she gets this really confused response from the dad. And then she'll say, oh, I'm sorry. Are you not the parent? Is this not your child?
I'm so sorry. Oh, my goodness.
Is this, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought this was your child. And then the father will go like, oh, I don't know, call my wife. And like, I love that.
That is so
And the
good.
other thing, the act of microfeminism, because I didn't know it was called this, and then I realised it's what my friend did recently. When she was on 25 group chats about netball, soccer, blah, blah, and she just went in and added all the dads because it was only the mums in the group chat. And she said her partner, who was actually her former partner, but she was like, his confusion and his panic, he messaged her straight away and said, oh my God, my phone is pinging every 5 minutes about this game on Saturday. And could I give someone a lift on Sunday? And there's a kit I've got to remember. And so-and-so's lost her boots. And did they leave them at my house? He's like, I can't live like this. What are you doing? And she was like, this is my life. And I also have a full-time job just like you.
Yeah.
So add the dads to the group chats, people. That is microfeminism in action.
I've got another one. I've done this for many years. So this week actually was a Jewish holiday called Passover. And, you know, you gather and you have this particular foods and you do this reading of various passages. You sort of tell this story. And there are all references, like there are in many religious texts, to God is the pronoun he and, you know, our father and those kinds of things. And part of it is you go around the table and you read sections of it out loud. And whenever it got to me, I would very ostentatiously replace he with she. And I noticed I sort of grew out of that about, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. And then I noticed we were at a friend's house this week and the young women all did that. And even when other people were reading, they would interrupt and say, or she, like it was really interesting.
There was one I saw going around about a woman who said every time she's walking down the street, she sees a man walking towards her. Like, you know, you're on the street and you're walking in the same line.
Yeah.
And she says, I don't move. I keep walking and 9 times out of 10 we run into each other. And I thought that's so true because it is my responsibility to sidestep and I'm sick of sidestepping.
You know, I was reading an interesting newsletter that made me think of this the other day. Emma Barnett is a female journalist from the UK who's this amazing, she was presenting Woman's Hour on the BBC for ages. She's really impressive. She's great. And she's recently given that up. She didn't call it microfeminism, but that's what it is she said that one of the things that she's done recently, and she calls it like an emotional labour strike, is that she stops making small talk and conversation. An example would be, say you're at a work function a work lunch, work dinner, work cocktail party, you know, you're standing there and a guy's standing there. And she's like, very often the assumption is that the woman is going to jump in, fill the space, ask the questions, keep the conversation moving. Social lubricant, exactly. And she said that what men have known for a long time, generalizing, but what a lot of men have known for a long time, that silence is power. The person who speaks least, you'll often hear this cliche, won't you? In a meeting or a negotiation, the person who speaks least is the most powerful person in the room.
That's where I'm going wrong.
Yes. And so she's like, women need to reclaim the power of silence, the power of just holding it. I always used to think this when I used to watch Mad Men. I know that you're a Mad Men person, Jessie, is that Don Draper, who's not an aspirational character, but he is very hot, he said hardly anything. In a room, in a meeting, in a brainstorm, he had this silence about him that just inferred power. And I'm not saying that, I mean, silence can be rude. It's not about people being rude. But if you examine how often,
because it's work doing the social lubrication.
Yeah, you examine how often you'll jump in to make other people feel comfortable, make men feel comfortable, move conversations along, do all that. And you just stop doing it and sit in silence. And she was saying, Emma Barnett in this newsletter, that men would be really discombobulated and almost start babbling. Because they were, after a while.
Which is how I behave around silent men. Exactly. Is that I start babbling and I say very silly things and then I start giggling like someone who is very unhinged.
Yes. So maybe we all need to be a bit more silent, except on the podcast, because that wouldn't work.
I have acts of microfeminism that I enact in my home often. So I guess that's not really helping other women, but it helps me. Every time I open the dishwasher and it's clean, which it usually is because Lucas put it on, and I don't unstack it, I think I'm doing this for my grandmother who had 7 kids and worked 2 jobs and her husband never unstacked shit, and I just close the dishwasher and I move along.
Woohoo!
And the other act of microfeminism I've adopted, after we had Luna, we'd have friends come over, Lucas' friends would come over with their girlfriends, or my friends would come over, and lots of men and women in the same space. Always ask the man if he wants to hold the baby first. Because often there are a lot of girls who come over that are like, I don't really have any interest in holding your baby. Yet they have the baby thrust upon them. So I'm like, oh, do you want to hold my baby?
Unpopular opinion, don't give people your baby.
I want to hold the baby.
Well, if people
I like holding
ask,
the baby.
That's different. But when you say to someone, do you want to hold the baby? Because you can't say no.
Oh, I've heard lots of people say no.
Who says no?
Men?
Brent loves holding babies, actually. Brent is a big baby holder.
Yeah.
He will grab that frickin' baby.
Yeah, I like it.
That domestic one, I like to think microfeminism is why I've never folded Brent's clothes. And I will never, ever, and I have never, and I will never pack a bag for that man. Like if we going somewhere,
why would you pack a bag for
so
him?
many women I know are responsible for the preparation for a holiday for everybody in their family. They are packing the man's clothes, the children's clothes, their own clothes, all those things. I will do Billy's clothes because he's, he needs some help. Yeah. And
my whole life it appears to be an act of microfeminism because I don't do shit at home.
Pack her own clothes now, but also I know so many women who pack their men's bags and make them lunch and all those things. And if that brings you joy, go for it. But I would never do that. You're a grown-up. You're responsible for your own shit. I am not your mother. That's my life.
Okay, wait. Last act of microfeminism that I think women should do this Christmas, right? Mm-hmm. Women, firstly, don't organise it. Secondly, when everyone eats, right, and the plates are sitting there, stalemate.
Oh, yeah.
I think all women should just sit there, look at the plates. Play chicken.
How
just sit there and go to
chicken?
2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
How often do all the women at the table leap up and start clearing?
No,
that happened this week to me.
Oh, no cleaning up.
Tell us out loud as we want to hear your acts of microfeminism. I bet they're better than ours. Please don't be too harsh on Mia for not knowing what feminism is after 50 years.
Come on, I think people have learned a lot from my concise definition. Feminism is same right to wear jeans. Jeans is important.
Jeans are really important.
No, but I mean pants. Because once upon a time, women couldn't wear jeans. They had to ride side saddle.
Mamamia out loud.
The weekend is nearly upon us, and we thought we would set you up with some recommendations. Holly, what have you got to recommend for today?
Have you watched Scoop?
No,
I've
but
started.
I want to. I didn't know it was out yet.
It is out. It is one movie-length episode of a thing. It is a British TV drama about...
So sorry, if it's one movie-length episode, does that not make it a movie?
Yeah, sure, it's a movie, but it doesn't feel like a movie.
She thought you wouldn't watch it for the movie, so she's calling it a TV
She's
episode
actually
movie.
right. It is a TV show with one long episode as long as a movie.
Because it doesn't feel like a movie. You know, like a movie is a movie.
Okay.
It feels like a TV show, doesn't it? To you?
I don't know, but I started watching and then I stopped because I got a little bit bored.
Oh, dear. No. Don't listen to Mia on this issue. No. This is a really interesting show.
The allegations surrounding Jeffrey Epstein include his friend Prince Andrew.
Sam, let's start pushing the palace. I want it for us.
You're chasing a story that we're never going to get.
This is the work. My job is booking the people we can't just call up.
Hello, everyone.
You have a problem that won't go away. We're looking at options. But there is a red line. Everything's changed. The FBI are raiding Epstein's home. You can't stay silent. South drawing room, 2 chairs, 6 feet apart. It's like a Western. Make no mistake, if we don't get the tone right, the story won't be him. It'll be us.
So what it's about is it's about the 2019 interview, very ill-advised interview that Prince Andrew did with a very serious British news programme called Panorama. He did it ostensibly to clear his name of any inference that he had sexually assaulted a young woman and been complicit in billionaire Jeffrey Epstein's illegal activities around sex trafficking, right? Here's Prince Andrew. He's like, I'm going to clear my name. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to talk to this journalist, right?
So bad.
And it all went horribly wrong. I'm sure you remember.
There was a great quote about that interview. It was described as not just a car crash and more like a plane crashing into an oil tanker, causing a tsunami, triggering a nuclear explosion. And it resulted in him being kicked out of the royal family, essentially.
It was absolutely. Without that interview, there is a universe in which he kind of got away with all that.
Yeah.
So this is a dramatisation of that. It has this amazing cast. So they've decided to look at it all through the lens of the researcher, producer who got the interview. She's a real person who in this is played by Billie Piper, who you might know as a pop star, you might know her as being in Doctor Who. If you're English, you'd know her for sure. She plays it and she's kind of like a bit of a fish out of water in this very posh BBC newsroom. And what she does is she pushes really hard on getting guests. And so while her other producers are like calling the PR people, she's like, my job is to find the people who don't have a PR phone number. And she's kind of a bit all over the place and in your face. Her co-workers don't like her and stuff. And she's the one who starts talking to the palace and slowly over time gets them to do this interview. Gillian Anderson plays Emily Matlis, who is this iconic TV journalist. And it's hilarious because apparently this is also true to life. She always brought her dog to work and she's like quite the princess herself. Rufus Sewell, who is genuinely usually hot, does a transformative job of being Prince Andrew.
Is that Rufus Sewell?
Yep.
Oh,
he plays Prince Andrew. And a lot of the show concerns itself with how the interview came to be. And then the end of it is it is so good and so interesting. And it doesn't really answer the question.
Why he did it.
What were they thinking?
They thought, you know, the reason that anybody agrees to this kind of thing is because they have a lack of self-awareness. I mean, in this case, he thought if I can just explain.
Yeah.
And if people just see me in my own words, then the media will stop writing because, you know, they can see. That's a man who, at almost 60 years of age, as he was at the time, has clearly, he was very well known to be his mother's favourite child, always been told that he's terrific.
Did the Queen tell him not to do it?
Don't think
No, and they don't. The Queen did not tell him not to do it. They obviously have to get, they show you all the layers of sign-off they had to get. They show you what it takes to get through the royal levels of access. So that's really interesting. The Billie Piper character gets to go to Buckingham Palace. Does all like, it's so good. It's so juicy. It dropped when I was in Britain, so I saw all the press around it there. And it's very accurate. Everybody's saying this is exactly what happened. The woman involved, who's played by Billie Piper, was involved in the production. Everybody was. It is so good.
I watched her do a TED Talk about it because she wrote a book and the TED Talk, and I've read articles written by Emily Matlis afterwards because it was, I mean, the royal family just never give interviews. So you sort of go, well, there was that Panorama interview, not since then, that Princess Diana gave against the BBC all those years ago. Oh, it's like, wow. I will watch the rest of it. I was watching Baby Reindeer, which we actually did a subs episode about if you want to go and see that. But I will get back to it. I was joking that it was boring. but I'm glad it's just a TV show that's as long as a movie with one episode.
It is. And it's on Netflix and it's available now and it's called Scoop.
Mia, what are you recommending?
I've got a shoe recommendation, 2 different pairs from 2 different places, but they are both red.
Oh, I love a red shoe.
Yeah. Now, I've not worn red shoes before. I don't think I own any red shoes, and now I own 2 pairs. The first was from Cotton On. I think their label is Ruby Shoes, and they're like red mesh Mary Janes, which sound like they'd be really hard to wear, but they're great with denim, great with white.
Are they the
I'm
ones
just
that look
wearing them.
almost like a sock?
Mesh?
No.
They're like net.
They wouldn't
Do you know
be good
what
in
mesh
the
is?
rain. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I think I saw them, like as in I didn't see them on you, but I saw them maybe 6 months ago and I thought I would never
Yeah.
be caught dead in that shoe, and then now everyone's wearing that shoe. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not going to be a trend that's around for a long
Oh,
time.
okay.
But so I didn't spend a lot of money on them. But I also then got a pair of kitten heels slingbacks from
Oh, I loved them.
Bellini.
Yes.
And they're like shiny red leather. Right?
LLINI. They're not like patent leather, but just wear red. The thing with red, it's a big colour this season or this year. You just got to wear them like a neutral. So you just got to wear them with whatever. You can't overthink it and go,
Yes.
oh, does red go with this and does that? But you just got to wear them. Like just imagine
I
that
love
they're
colourful shoes.
Yeah.
Colourful, like I'm allergic to black shoes now because it's like, even if you're wearing really boring all denim, it's just like pop.
Yeah, do you know that'd be
fun
great for
shoe.
you, Hol, because you wear a lot of blue and a lot of denim and they go beautifully with those colours. Again, not too expensive. The heels are under $100. They're like $90.
Great.
And I think the Ruby Shoes ones are even less. They're like probably 50 or less than that. I can't remember the exact details, but if you want links to all of our recos and details, because you might be driving, you might be walking, who's got a pen? Does anyone use pens anymore? We send out a newsletter every week with links to all our recos. It's the Mamamia Out Loud newsletter, funnily enough. We will put a link in the show notes to sign up.
I saw you in those mesh ballet flats and I was like, they look so great. I don't think
Do
I could
they?
do it. So I think you need to put a picture in so everyone can see.
Yeah, look,
I
the
think
problem
I have
with
quite a wide foot, and I don't think it would suit a wide foot.
Don't worry about that. But the problem with ballet flats is that there's not a lot of, padding between you and the ground. They're
You can't
bloody
walk a lot
uncomfortable.
in
You
them.
don't want to walk on cobblestones, put it that way.
I'm recommending, similar to Holly, a movie-length television episode. It's actually just a movie.
We need a new word for that because I don't think Scoop is a movie. It just isn't. You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
know
Like
what
it doesn't
this
have a
is.
vibe
Yeah.
of a movie.
TV movie.
Yeah,
This
I
doesn't
guess it
have the
is.
vibe of a movie either, but it's 90 minutes and it's a movie. It's called What Jennifer Did on Netflix.
911, Drew.
Help me, please. I need help. I don't know where my parents are.
Ma'am, calm down. What's going on?
Some people broke into our house
Okay,
and
okay.
they showed all his money. And I could hear my parents yelling downstairs.
Okay,
Please send
ma'am.
help.
This is a violent crime that has taken place. We have one deceased female Big Pan, and we have another male Hand Pan who has suffered injuries to his head. This case was something that we'd never seen before.
It was a situation that I could never have imagined.
I'm actually happy, can I just say, while we're talking about movies and TV shows, because I think there are a lot of things that should have just been movies and have become like 6 episodes.
So that's What Jennifer Did. I was watching it going, I can see how you would have made 6 episodes and I would have probably stopped watching at 3. But they went, no, we're going to do a tight 90, which I respect.
Nice. Drama, doco? What?
It is a doco,
okay,
and it's
good.
about a woman named Jennifer Pan. She was 24 years old, living in Toronto, and it starts with her 911 call, and she is telling the operator that she's had these intruders come into her home and shoot her mother and her father.
Oh, it's true crime.
It's true crime. And I was watching it going, oh, this rings a bell. And about halfway through, I remembered like I've listened to this on a true crime podcast or something before. But it is so fascinating. It's about who the intruders were and how it's very strange because Jennifer Pan's phone call, she said she was tied up upstairs. But if you listen to the 911 call when you analyse it, it doesn't sound like it's coming from a phone that's, that she's taken out of her back pocket. It sounds almost like it's right under her
How long ago
chin.
did this case happen?
This happened 10 years ago. But this is the first time I've seen any of the footage, like really.
Is it upsetting?
No, it's not graphic or anything.
Okay.
It's not graphic. It's sort of psychological and it's about lying and it's about sitting down with someone and extrapolating the truth. So if you're into true crime, you're going to like this. If you're not, you won't. So it's called What Jennifer Did and it's on Netflix.
Want unlimited Out Loud access? We drop episodes every Tuesday and Thursday exclusively for Mamamia subscribers. Follow the link in the show notes to get us in your ears 5 days a week. And a huge thank you to all our current subscribers. It's Friday, which means we are looking back at our week and are picking out our bests and our worsts, which can be serious, can be silly. Mia Freedman, what are your best and worst moments of the week?
My worst was going back to Bondi Junction, Westfield. The day after we got back from a holiday, we were away when it happened, the attack at Bondi Junction. And my instinct, I would have ordinarily just gone up there, right, on the Sunday. It's what I do. I had some errands to do. I had a pair of shoes to return. And then, of course, this happened. And I was like, I want to go, but I don't. But I do. And I really questioned why I wanted to go. I'm like, am I being voyeuristic? Is it really macabre that I want to go up there? Is it part of processing? Is it the right thing to do? And I asked a couple of friends and they said, oh, no, definitely go. My mother-in-law had just been up and she came over and she got really teary telling me about it. And another friend said, you must go, you must go. It's done so beautifully. So I thought, okay, I need to sort of reclaim it. And I also wanted to go up there before everything was back to normal, if that sounds right, because I feel like I could have easily just avoided it. And I've had this conversation with so many people who visit that shopping centre a lot, could have easily avoided it until, you know, it was just back to being normal. And I thought I don't want to do that because part of processing, I guess it's like going to a funeral. And I didn't personally know any of the people who were killed, but I know every inch of that shopping centre and any of those people could have been me and could have been anyone that I love. And so I went. I sort of braced myself and I went up. And of course, as soon as I went to the memorial, there were two memorials at that time, one in the mall outside the shopping centre and then one also inside. Before I went inside, I went to the main one on the mall, just burst into tears because you just can feel it. And it was beautiful, like all the flowers, all the cards, a lot of cards and notes to Amy Scott, the police officer who killed the attacker. There were like drawings from school, you know, little kids at school. There were teddy bears, there were candles, there were like messages written in different languages and from strangers and from people who knew the victims. And it was massive. And there were like social workers there who had like vests that said mental health. A lot of people were sort of crying and people were talking to them, but people just wanted to talk. And they just wanted to sort of connect. It was like everyone had sort of been cracked open. And my mum said she had a similar experience going yesterday where when you go in, they give you a black ribbon if you want to wear the black ribbon in memory of the victims. And she couldn't quite put it on. And there was a woman who said, here, I'll help you. And this woman just came up to her and she said, I work in David Jones and this is my first day back since the attack. She didn't talk about it, but she became very determined to put Mum's thing on. And it's like people were looking for excuses to talk to each other. And it was very eerie. A lot of the shops were still closed, particularly around the locations where the people died. And I can only imagine some of the things that those people experienced that worked in those shops and that were there on that day. And everyone was on edge and you'd hear a noise or you'd hear an alarm, like a car alarm or something, and everyone would jump a little bit, or there'd be like someone would drop something and everyone would kind of startle and you were like looking over your shoulder. I was talking to Mum about, you know, she said that thing of looking over your shoulder all the time. And she said, but I do that all the time anyway, just not there. And we were talking about that feeling of we were so devastated and also so angry that even that place has been taken from particularly women, because shopping centres are, as was discussed on an earlier episode, very special places for women, places of safety. You know, a lot was made after the Taylor Swift concert. It's the only place you feel safe in the whole world as a woman at the Taylor Swift concert and at a bloody shopping centre until 2 weeks ago. So anyway, you know, I cried, I signed the condolence books, I walked around and I won't say I reclaimed it. And I walked past the place where the guy was killed, the attacker, and there was nothing there. Like people were just walking over that spot. Wow. And I'd seen it on the news so many times and I knew exactly where it was. And ironically, there was a woman with a pram just, you know, walking next to me. And I instinctively swerved to avoid where it was. People didn't realise. And I'm like, life will go back to normal, not for the people who were affected and not for the people who lost loved ones. It was just a feeling. It was like a window into everybody's humanity and a connective thing in a way. So I'm really glad I went. My best was family holiday, you know, being away with Luna and with, you know, our family and with Jessie and Luca and my daughter and her girlfriend and my son and my husband. And the way the baby was just passed around, it was like I was so envious because when I had my children, I don't have a sister and I didn't You know, I never experienced that. And I was like, oh, this is how children are meant to be raised, particularly babies. Because looking after a baby can be hard, it can be unrewarding, it can be boring, it can be monotonous, it can be lonely. And it just wasn't any of those things. It was just delightful. So that my best was just seeing the world through Luna's eyes and adjacent joy of watching how much joy she was giving everybody else.
Yeah.
I just loved that so much.
My worst was I've come back and Luna ate really well on our holiday, right? Because Mum wasn't cooking. And suddenly, guess who's not picky when I'm not cooking? So I was like, I need to learn to cook good food.
Yeah.
So I was like, a bolognese, how hard can a bolognese be? So I looked up this recipe and I went and I bought the things for the bolognese. And then I started it at 10 a.m. and it got to like 11 and I'd chopped 2 onions. And I was like, wait, there's more that I have to do.
How can I not be finished?
How can I not be finished? And my hand was hurting because I was like, why?
And you were crying and it was sore.
And I was crying.
It hurts.
And then it was like, grate 2 carrots. So by that time my wrists hurt.
And you probably had bleeding fingers.
I did. Oh and it said peel the carrots, then grate them. And I was like, what does peeling a carrot mean? Anyway, I just grated it. Then I was then I had to, Holly, please, this is my moment. Then I had to cut an eggplant, which is really hard to cut.
I never know what to do with eggplants.
Well, I had to cut it into square bits.
All I can think of is that Jenna kid who couldn't cut a cucumber.
Be careful, because I nicked myself the other day.
I don't know, I'm kind of scared.
There you go.
Don't cucumbers have seeds? Oh, yeah, there we go. I definitely am not a good cutter, so don't zoom in on me.
And the internet went, oh my God, this generation is broken.
Look, and I cook. I can scramble an egg. I can make toast. Cooking. When I make pasta, I normally do like, say, ravioli in a hot water and then I just pour some sauce in. But I wanted to make my bolognese. So we're still
going.
Yeah. then it was like, cut the garlic. And I was like, how? My hand hurts. Anyway, then it's 4 p.m. and I'm like, I am still cooking this fucking bolognese that then had to be on the stove for a long time.
Longer than dinner.
Yeah. And then Luca got home and I was like, I guess we're having bolognese for dinner. And we had like 2 bowls of it. And I was like, that's like it.
And you have to do it all again the next day.
Okay. I need to ask some questions. And I don't want to sound, but I'm going to. I'm just going to.
Have at it, Hull.
How old are you?
I was going to say 20, 34, 33 and a half.
So we're 33.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we've cooked
bolognese.
Like a meal that involved you cutting vegetables.
No, I have cut vegetables before, but this was a lot. This was like the vegetable list kept going.
Okay.
There was just more and more vegetables.
I just have the question in my head is just like, how? How have you eaten food for the past 33 years without ever having to chop an onion?
Okay,
I'm not a domestic goddess. I am so far from a domestic goddess. But I've been chopping onions, Jessie, since I was a kid.
Okay, I have definitely chopped onions. And Luca is the cook of our family, right? And this time I was like, I need to make a bolognese for my daughter. It felt primal. And then I did it and I was like, I actually don't need to make a bolognese for my daughter.
Like making a birthday cake. You do it once.
Exactly. You do it once and then you go, no, this isn't actually intrinsic or natural. It was just how much went into making bolognese. Sounds easy, but it's not. There's too many vegetables. Anyway.
Welcome to the horror that most people listening to this show make dinner every night. Every night of the week. I
was like,
someone has to eat something and someone has to make it and they're making it. And the other thing that's about to happen is you are about to be bombarded with easy bolognese recipes.
Fuck off with your easy recipes. They take me 3 hours.
And I've already said to you once today, have you discovered Naji? Recipe Tin Eats.
Yeah.
All her recipes are relatively simple. They work really well. But also, I don't think you should have to cook if you hate it. Like, I'm not imposing that on you.
Why is it called Recipe Tin Eats? Does you have to use a tin?
No, her blog.
Do you cook it in a tin?
Her blog that became really famous was called Recipe Tin Eats because it was about a tin of recipes, like, recipes that are handed down, recipes that you keep in a tin.
Nice.
So her blog was called Recipe Tin Eats, but the book that is the biggest selling book in 100 years is called Dinner because it's literally about you've got to get dinner on the table. She's great. She's fail-safe. I don't want to sound like I'm some kind of trad wife, like imposing on you. You have to make homemade meals. But I just
can't believe that we're all walking around our lives chopping shit. Honestly, it's 2024.
Of course we are.
It was a horrible experience. Didn't even taste that good. Needed lots of salt. All right. My
Did
best.
Luna eat any of it?
That's was it a successful mission?
Haven't tried yet, but I would say
Just
no.
you ate it all.
Yeah, we had some and then there was a bit left and I'm sure she'll just throw it on the floor and I'll
she
cry.
will. The dog will eat it.
Yeah. So
And then you'll feel bitter.
I'll get angry.
Yeah, you will.
My best was definitely holiday to Fiji. And more than that, I think given the news cycle this week and Australia's relationship with babies, it was interesting being in Fiji with a baby because people liked it.
People like babies.
People love babies. We got there and we were going through this little security thing at one point, like a little airport. And we were going through and this man, he might have been 24, comes up to me and motioned for me to hand him Luna. And I was like, that's a bit weird.
Security.
But in order to go through security, you've got to go through without the baby and they just stand there and hold the baby on their hip while you do it. I was like, in Australia,
yes,
no one would hold your baby for free. It would be like $30 to hold your baby.
Like our culture is very unbaby friendly.
And you walk in and
I've held babies for women in airports many times.
Oh, the way that people just beamed at Luna. We went to this little waiting area and they had a whole kid. Everything is so kid friendly and you realise how easy it would be for us just to accept that children exist in the world and we don't have to
it's like when you go to Europe and like kids are running around at 10 o'clock at night while their parents are sitting out having dinner and having a chat and nobody's going, shut up, go away, shut up. Nobody's doing that. They're just going, this is part of life. And those children are just doing their thing.
I don't mind that at a dinner. I just mind it at a comedy show. They're allowed to go on holidays. They're allowed to be in airports. I will hold them as you go through security. I will say, aren't they sweet? While they run around under the table in my legs at the dinner
Fijian
table.
comedian would throw a child out of a show. I'll say that. Holly, what's your worst?
Okay, you know how a couple of weeks ago we talked about this book that's everywhere by Jonathan Haidt about the anxious generation and it's all about phones and how they've ruined everything?
Yeah.
I listened to another interview with him this week.
I saw that and I wondered if I should listen.
Stop it. I was driving my car back up to Sydney on Monday morning and I was listening to him talking about and there are children who are spending their entire school holidays sitting on a couch looking at a screen and I was like, shit, that is exactly what my child is doing right now and has been doing for a week now.
Why do you keep self-harming by listening to this podcast?
The thing is my daughter Matilda is out in the world doing things. She's at footy practice. She's playing with her friends. She's running about. But my son Billy, for a myriad reasons, his happy place is to be sitting on the couch in a very specific part of our house having multi-screens.
Hard to relate.
Yeah, he's you. He's you, Mia. In many ways, he's you, actually.
So many ways.
He wants the telly to be on which he's watching YouTube shorts of people playing video games that he is also playing on his Nintendo while also he's got Dad's phone that he's wrestled from him and on there God knows what he's doing on that. Let's be honest. But anytime I try and call him on it, he doesn't answer.
No.
So we've got
he's too immersed.
He's downloading porn on Prince's
Please
phone.
don't say that. So I'm like, oh shit, this is really bad. I've got a zombie child. It's the school holidays and he's been doing this for 2 weeks now. Please could somebody come and rescue my son? I've got to go to work. I don't know what to do. I'm just like, this is the end of the world.
If you're a trad wife, you'd be baking sourdough starters with him.
I know. And I messaged Brent as soon as I got out of the car and I said, what's Billy doing right now? And he's like, he's on the couch with his 3 screens living his best life. He's like, I'm working. What am I supposed to do? I'm like, shit. That's my worst.
I've got some vegetables Billy could cut for me. If he has some spare time, I have some onions he could cut.
Yeah.
My best of the week, and I haven't talked about it for a little while, but obviously I've been away, as you know, from last week. Yeah,
I can tell.
Yeah, last week I had been away, so I haven't been home much at all, and I had a weekend at home, ignoring my child who was on 3 screens, and I was going, you know what I want to do? You know what my happy creative rest is? I'm going to do my winter planting. And I went to my veggie beds and I pulled out all the things that were in there that are past their prime, that are done. I reinvigorated my soil. I sorted out some seedlings.
How do you know when something's done?
Well, it's just tight. So I had tomatoes and they've given me
loads
loads
I don't
of...
care.
I
regret asking.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I actually don't care.
I regret asking. I thought I was interested, but I'm not.
Cherry tomatoes, and they give me lots of tomatoes, but now they're all like, ooh, sad. They're sad. So you pull them all out, you mulch them all down.
What's a winter vegetable?
So this winter we've got quite a lot of peas going on.
Yuck.
Yeah, no yum. Sugar snap peas. Love. Lots of peas. But what I've learned last year, I tried to do complicated things like cauliflowers, broccoli. Take a long time. Don't do that. So this year I'm just doing lots of things that you can go out and pick. So lots of spinach, lots of lettuce, lots of silver beet, lots of herbs, basil, parsley, good in bolognese.
It's not enough carbs.
Can't grow carbs, Mia.
That's the problem.
Isn't a potato a carb?
With gardens.
Oh, yeah, I could grow potatoes.
Nice. Also sweet potato.
Yep. So I had a lot of fun.
Yams.
Yep. I had a lot of fun reinvigorating the veggie beds.
Corn.
And at the end of Saturday, I felt like replenished.
You are a trad wife.
It made me feel good.
Now-
That was my best. I'm not apologising for
Make it into bolognese and give it to Jessie and we'll kill two birds.
it.
Brisbane Out Louders, we can't wait to see you next week. We are just days away from our first live show.
To buy tickets to Mamamia Out Loud Live presented by Nivea Cellular, go to outloudlive.com.au and we'll also pop a link in the show notes.
Outlouders, if you want to peek into Jessie Stephen's marriage, we've done a subs episode about it. She's been married now for 1 year. And
Which
to
is
celebrate
1 year longer than
me.
Holly.
Oh, sorry. I didn't make it to 1 year of my first marriage.
Oh, really?
No.
I'm the only one out of all of us that made it to 1 year.
Yeah,
Wow.
well done.
You've done a lot of years now.
Oh, many years.
Doesn't count though because she had that false start.
Yeah, we did have a false start. We did. We had a starter marriage. Jessie's made it. She's got 5 lessons that she's learned in her first year of marriage. Holly's going to take notes because one day maybe she too could get married. We'll put a link in the show notes, but here is a sneak peek.
My fourth, and this was actually in Luca's vows, and I didn't take any notice of them at the time. And then I realised they're actually quite wise. He said in his vows to me that we'll always be on the same team.
You know, if one partner, for example, has a higher standard of cleanliness than the other, and they're like, can you please just put whatever, we're on the same team. We're both on the same team. And it's like, well, that's got nothing to do with it. That's just you want everything to be at your standard.
So sometimes he does that actually is he goes, this household, and then he'll make some claim and I'm like, this household never agreed that we would iron our pillowcases. Not that, but that.
Yes. You can listen to that right now via the link in our show notes.
Thank you. If you've made it this far in our rather chaotic Friday show, we appreciate you Out Louders. We love you so much. Thank you for listening to Australia's #1 news and pop culture show. This episode was produced by Emeline Gazilas. The assistant producer is Tahli Blackman. We've had audio production by Leah, Porges, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Shout out to any Mamamia subscribers listening. If you love the show and you want to support us, subscribing to Mamamia is the very best way to do so. There's a link in the episode description.